Yeah, awesome. All right, so I've just hit record, and before I've hit record, you're telling me you're sitting out the back of your shop, which was a shock to me because I thought runners one and your running training was enough for you and Riley to keep your hands full. But you were telling me what 6 months ago you opened a little coffee shop.
Yeah, so yeah, we are pretty busy already, but the group had grown and we were kind of doing merchandise from the back of Riley's car. And, we were, yeah, meeting with runners and trying to find a place for coffee afterwards. And it's pretty hard to get a place for 100 runners to have a coffee after a session. So we thought, why not start our own coffee shop, give it a go, and also offer the running community and runners one, yes, and running specific products. We stock all sorts of things like gels, Morton running gear, yeah, lots of
That
stuff.
that's
Watches.
amazing. Yeah, I think because I was living in Adelaide in 2006, and that's where I met Adam originally. I was training with him, and I don't know if you know Dan Matner, but Dan
Yes,
Matner's a
I
good
met
mate.
him. He's in the US now.
Yeah, he is. He
Yeah.
is. So at the time, it was just the three of us, and I worked at Joggers World, and I think Joggers World was like the highlight of the world of running in in South Australia at the
It
moment.
definitely
So
was, yeah.
so where have you guys got the coffee shop based?
It's in Norwood, so it's just between Kensington Road and the Parade. So it was pretty particular that we needed a spot close to where we train. We train at Victoria Park. We meet by the grandstand there. And so it's literally less than 1 kilometre from the grandstand. It's about 600 metres from the top of the park. So we just jog down there. Yeah, it's really easy to come back here afterwards. So it's pretty handy.
So have you got a big spot?
Yeah, a bit spot. Yeah,
Like a
it's
yeah, sorry, a big
we've
cafe.
got like yeah, so we've got like the coffee out the front and like kind of I guess the merchandise and all the products are in the front area, and then I'm back here in like an office space. We've got a section with Normatec recovery boots and a TV. People can enjoy their coffee and jump in the Normatec recovery boots and watch some old running videos on YouTube. And yeah, we've got a little kitchen out the back and shower and bathroom and storeroom, and then we've got a lovely back garden with we actually renovated it, put fresh grass down, gravel, big picnic tables, and nice umbrellas. So it gets pretty hot out there today. It's like 38 degrees, but we've got a little mister sprinkler system, so you can stay nice and cool out there too.
Man, what a dream. That's a
You
big
have to
commitment.
come check it out.
Oh, sign me up. I've got a sister. I've got a sister who still lives in Adelaide, and I'm due to get back there. It's always one of those places where I never. I- I've got all the intentions to come back, and then I look at my
Yeah,
calendar. I'm like, wow, it's been 6 years, so
yeah.
I need to get over there. But so how are you managing that at the moment? Have you got people working there? Because I can imagine with the yours and Riley's training schedule
Mm.
and runners one commitment, there's limited time left on the daily schedule for you.
Definitely. I mean, I'm always jumping in and out, whether it's vacuuming at the end of the day or packing up the food or just helping serve and, hand out coffees. But we do have staff here. So we've got actually Riley's mum is the manager, and she's here most days of the week now, which has been great. We've been able to kind of we're open every day apart from Monday. Got a couple of baristas who jump in for the busy sections, and yeah, Riley's actually really good behind the machine. But yeah, I'm lucky. I really prioritize my running. Riley has kind of taken, like, he's still obviously such a good runner and doing really well, but he's definitely stepped into more of kind of like more of these roles and kind of lets me offload that, go home for a nap and get my training in. So yeah, we balance it well. It is
That
busy though.
I can imagine. Had you guys had any experience in the cafe world before, or was it your first venture?
I've worked in hospitality, so I've worked in quite a few cafes when I was younger, but not necessarily. Yeah, I've got a psychology degree. Riley's got a physiotherapy master's, so it's not really, what we're kind of trained for. But I think it just was like a natural progression. Runners love coffee; they love to sit and chat and hang out after a run. So it was really just offering something that our community needed. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been a lot of challenges too, but we're working through them.
You got some good posters up in the shop as well.
Yeah, yeah, we've got a few good running prints and such, and still got to deck the walls with a few more things. So always on the lookout.
Yeah. So is the idea? So you obviously you've got that social side covered, which is amazing. And you said you've got a little bit of merch and some of the products. Is it going to be like a fully decked out running store as well at the back?
We're not doing shoes because it's just it's a whole nother ball game, and we've got some great places in SA at the moment which do offer shoes, and we're not really getting into that space at the moment. But yeah, the products are kind of expanding. we have we've for a long time had done a lot of gear with two times you with our branding, and we're stocking more products here, like gels, electrolytes, watches, Goda sunglasses, Sealay hats, just kind of any specialty running products that a runner or endurance lover might want to pick up while they're in.
Man, that's unreal. It's so funny. You've thrown a curveball at me because I was excited to get you on and just talk about running, but I'm also such a
No,
nerd.
let's talk about running.
I was going to say I'm also such a nerd when it comes to cafes, and I've just got so much respect for people who have a crack and start their own thing, and especially like for my own selfish purposes when it's in a field which I really love. So
Yeah.
man, we're going to have to do another podcast just on cafe life in the future. But
I'll have to get a bit more experience first.
I'd be out of my depth. You could say anything with a bit of confidence and I'd believe you. But again, we were saying before, we were having a little chat, obviously, before we hit record. And what was it, like not even a week ago now, World Cross Country Champs in Australia.
Yeah.
And we were talking about G'day in the women's race, and just how wild it was to see her collapse with sort of 50 or 60 meters to go. It was a course that I'd never really seen before. It was a real mix-up, a real taste of Australia, I guess they were trying to deliver. How'd you find it? Because it was a wild experience from sitting on the couch at home watching it.
Definitely. Look, it was hard, but we knew it was going to be hard. And for me, this year, like last year and the year before, was pretty much focused on the track. I haven't done really any cross country since I was in college. Not since like 2017. I actually broke my foot in 3 places at the last NCAA cross country meet that I did, which was in 2017. So I didn't have the best experience of cross country coming off that experience. I didn't run for like 4 months after that injury and was in a boot, and 3 broken bones is not good. But yeah, going into this year, knowing that we had World Cross in Australia, I mean, you just really can't pass up that opportunity to give it a crack and try and make the team and try and run for Australia at a home world championship. So, once that was on the calendar and it was something that was plausible, I definitely wanted to give it a crack. And I'm so glad I did. As hard as it was so much fun and an experience that I'm sure, we might not get in our lifetime of running. Definitely not, in cross country probably. So yeah, it was fun to do. But I think going into it, my mentality was kind of like, wow, what a great experience. Let's have some fun. But I wasn't super tied up to the result that came from it, so to speak. I mentioned I've got a marathon in Japan. I leave in less than 2 weeks. So it's on March 12th. 2 weeks ago, I did a half marathon in Japan and ran a PB there. So this kind of block has been really focused towards, like the half and the marathon. And I was lucky that I could just kind of like throw in the trials in January, taper it a little bit for a week, get that done, make the team, and then, have the opportunity to represent Australia at the World Championships. And it was incredible. Like, as you said, watching it on screen, I think was pretty fun for people to watch and see us all running through the mud and just getting up that hill and through the vineyard. It was an incredible course. Like, it was kind of a bit of like the first lap, I felt like laughing just at how hard it was and how silly, it was so dry, but we're running through this massive puddle of mud. But yeah, they did a great job. I think what Athletics said, make it hard, and they certainly lived up to that.
Yeah, that mud puddle was awesome. I was having a little stalk at your Instagram page before we got on today, and that was a great action shot. It was fun. Like, it was horrible, very horrible for me sitting behind the couch, because every time the athletes ran past, I was like, come on, just let someone fall. Like, we got to see we got to see it stack. But at the very least, there's some nice action shots. I heard Mona and Tamsin in the commentary say that they didn't think the footage did justice to the hills that you guys were running up and down. I don't know what the gradient was, but it sounded as though it was intense. Like, I've very rarely seen athletes collapse like they were on, last weekend. So I can only imagine that had something to do with the hills and also, I guess, a lot to do with the heat.
Certainly, yeah. I actually haven't rewatched the replay, so I'm not sure how it looked on screen, but there were some nasty hills, a few little pinches, and one that just went forever and you felt like it was done at halfway and then it just kept going. It was just a course that you never got any relief or any momentum. It was just hard, and you were either running uphill through mud or a really sharp downhill. So yeah, never really kind of feeling good. And I'm sure that's why, a lot of people ended up not finishing, collapsing, in the medical tent, throwing up, having heat exhaustion, yeah, there was a lot of that happening, and I think the conditions really played into that, and the course itself too. I hadn't run a hill since April last year, so the first lap of the course, I was like, "Oh, here we go!" But if you handle the hills, you just kind of like try and run the same effort and get up them. It doesn't matter if you slow down. If someone passes you, you can make that up after you get over it. So I try to just attack them with enough kind of to get up them, but also just kind of stay consistent and not let my heart rate get too spiked.
Yeah. And how did that sort of fit into the marathon preparation at the moment? Like obviously you don't necessarily need to be doing a whole heap of hills to get marathon fit, but in terms of taper and things like that, what are we? You said you're 2.5 weeks out from your marathon. So what's that,
Yeah.
3.5 weeks out? There wouldn't be a great taper happening just yet.
No, so I mean, look, I wasn't able to do any cross country prep or any hills in my training, and unfortunately, I've had like a hamstring tendinopathy for the last year and a half since Tokyo, which meant that for the last year I haven't really done any hills apart from just undulation in some of my long runs along the torrents here, which might not really count as hills. So look, yeah, I didn't have that kind of like preparation, as you said, you might if you're just targeting that as your main race. But I think like as long as you're strong and fit, you can have confidence that you're going to get around the course and you're going to get through it and you're going to be strong enough. And on the day it was probably more of a mental strength necessary than anything physical. But yeah, in terms of tapering, like the Friday before World Cross, I had my biggest session yet. So it was 6 by 3K in around 10 minutes, so 3:20 pace. I had 2-minute jog between that, and then warm up, warm down, 30K morning with a cross training double later. So certainly still like deep in that training. And Sunday had a 2-hour run, so backed off a little bit, but certainly not tapering like I would, and maybe if you're really freshening up for that main key event. And then the week of the race, obviously I really respected what was coming. My Tuesday session, I ended up cutting it just because I didn't feel very good, and I was cognizant that I was only 4 or 5 days out from the race, and really after the Tuesday, once I didn't feel great in that session, I just kind of I think I jogged 50 minutes the next day, and then it was like 45, 20, 30, 30, like just a couple of easy jogs until we got to race day. So it was certainly a down week. Like I ran, 91 Ks coming down from 160. So, but that's more just kind of like the race itself and not really doing a long run that week.
Yeah. How has the marathon prep been going?
Yeah, good. I mean, I think it's interesting to chat about like marathon training, and I'm so new to it. I've only done one, Melbourne last year, and coming off Com Games, I ran the 5K and the 10K, and I got COVID afterwards, and I was kind of half committed to doing Melbourne, and then I fully committed like 6 weeks out, and I got a really solid 5 weeks of training in, but a lot of people kind of, sound like they don't think that's a lot of training to do 5 weeks for a marathon, but I felt like I was strong and prepared enough, and I'd done plenty of running in the last 2 years prior that I could kind of just show up and get the marathon done. I kind of thought I wanted to do my next marathon with a proper marathon block, and we've gotten here now, and it hasn't certainly been what I imagined. With World Cross trials in there, half marathon, and then World Cross. It's been a fair bit of racing, and I think looking back on it now, I don't think you need necessarily that marathon block to run a marathon. I'm sure it can work for certain people in different situations, but racing can keep you fresh. It can change things up, and I think it's good to have a bit of variation in your training, and whether that's as extreme as doing cross country and then road racing in the same kind of block. But I think that mixing it up is good, and I've managed to fit in a few big meaty sessions and a couple of 2-hour 30 long runs along the way. So I think I'll be prepared enough.
Yeah, no, that's good. So when you say it was the Melbourne Marathon, you said that you had a 5-week specific block. Like, what's the weekly sort of block that you've got for? Is it Tokyo Marathon you're running?
I'm actually running Nagoya, so it's a week after Tokyo. It's the Nagoya Women's Marathon, and I paced there last year for 30 kilometers. So I'm lucky that I know the course a little bit and all the kind of set up there, which is good.
That's nice. It's good to be able to go in with a little bit of clarity about what you're expecting. So I was talking to Paddy Tiernan on here a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that he mentioned was like pretty similarly to you, like all throughout the year, you kind of got a base phase happening anyway, don't you? In the sense that you're not going to be having a couple of weeks off, or you're not going to be having a few weeks where you're just doing like a 30-minute long run. So I guess just by default, like you've got the, it's a well-earned luxury of being relatively fit from 5 weeks out to be able to do something really tailored
Yeah,
towards it.
exactly. That's what I think. And, if I look back on it, I've probably been averaging 140 Ks a week for the last 2 years and, on training weeks. And then when I'm racing, it goes down to 100, 120 or thereabouts. But, that's a lot of weeks of consistent work. And when you start from that base, it doesn't take much just to top it up and add a half an hour into the long run here or add a bit of a longer session. It doesn't really need to change your training all that much. So yeah, you're right. Like if you come from this base of an athlete of that level, then you can kind of just jump up a little bit for a marathon.
Yeah. How have you handled some of the bigger sessions? Like you mentioned that 6x3K, that's an intense session. Was that around Uni Loop there in Melbourne, or where did you do that one?
I did it. I do my sessions around Botanic, so on the like road loop there. It's actually it's less than 2 kilometers, so it's like 1,844. I think it's measured around. So it gets a fair bit of laps if you're doing a long session, but I really like it. It's got like it's fairly even. It's road. It's got one little hill on it. It's nothing too crazy, and yeah, it's pretty shaded too. So when it's a bit warmer, you kind of get a little bit of coverage, which is nice. But yeah, I love those sessions. They're my favorite sessions. And I think that's why I kind of always thought I would be a marathoner in the future, is because I've always loved these longer sessions. Like the long thresholds or the broken thresholds have always been, what I love to do. So they've been tough. And like that 6x3K was probably, it got pretty hard towards the end. I had company for half of it, but then I was solo for the last 3 reps. And it was challenging, but I also really enjoyed it. And I feel like you walk away from the sessions feeling really rewarded and strong.
Yeah. Did you have someone out there on the bike with you, or was Riley joining you for the first couple of reps? I was just interested because obviously the hydration or the nutrition element of marathon running is one that's really interesting to me, because it's like it constantly surprises me just how many different approaches people have to gels and drinks and fluids, and when they like to have it and when they don't like to have it. So in the preparation phases, I know a lot of people, especially when they're using gels, like to have a few sessions like that where they're getting a little bit of a taste for how they might implement it. How did you structure that? Was that a part of a session like that, or do you sort of just worry about your drinks in between reps?
Yeah, look, I think it's really important to practice it. And for Melbourne last year, I think having a short prep, knowing that I needed just to nail all the little things like that to make it a good day. And so I really honed in on my nutrition and practiced doing all the drinks. And Riley actually did Melbourne last year, and he only decided 3 weeks out. So I thought I had a short prep. He had a very short prep. And he wasn't really training anywhere near as much as he had been the previous year, just due to an ongoing chronic injury. But he just practiced his nutrition and then got that done on race day. And coming from a much lower training base, he ran a minute PB, pretty much just off doing nutrition better. So it does show what you can, like how much it can help. And I think it's huge, and it should be practiced in training. So for me, my training, look, like I get it done, but sometimes it can be a little bit ad hoc just because of our lifestyle, and we fit it in when it suits us. So I think the first session of my marathon block, like my first long session, 20K of 1K on off, Riley jumped in for that one. We did it together, and we actually put a table out on the loop and put our drinks on there, and like grabbed our drinks off the table and then like chucked the bottle on the ground and picked them up at the end. So that was pretty good practice. And then the next session I did, actually Jacob jumped in. So Riley wasn't able to do that one with me, but Jacob, his brother, jumped in, and that was really handy to have him and another friend do half of it. And for that one, I think, Riley was just handing me drinks along the way. Like he was out on the bike, but I also just stood on the side and gave him a drink. And then for this last 6x3K, unfortunately, neither Jacob or Riley could do it with me. So I had my training partner, Connor, but he only runs about 70 Ks a week. So a big session like that would be a quarter of his mileage for the week. So he only did the first 3 reps with me, and he led me through, which was really helpful. And Riley showed up about halfway through and handed me my bottle for the last kind of part of it. So yeah, it just shows that, you kind of fit it in where you can and get what you can done. On Tuesday, actually, after World Cross, I had to do a 2 hour 15 long run on my own.
Oh,
and it was hot, and like I couldn't organize. We're a bit busy here. I just couldn't get someone to go on the bike with me. I didn't really try hard enough, but so I just took a bottle with me in my hand with 500 mils with a Morton packet in it, mixed up, and I just carried it the whole way and drank it on my run. Like, when you're running 4:20 pace, like you can hold a bottle in your hand. It doesn't really matter. It's not slowing you down. I think I drank all of it in the first like 50 minutes anyway. Then I chucked the bottle. I chucked the bottle on the ground at like a playground, kept going, and then on the way back, picked it up. So yeah, got it done.
That's unreal. With the 10-minute 3K reps, like how did you decide what pace you wanted to go out there? Like I'm not sure if you want to say what time you're hoping to run or what your PBs at the moment.
My PB I ran at Maragami, the half marathon, was 69:27. So it's about 3:8. I think it's 3:18 pace. Previously, my PB was the one half marathon done in Melbourne in 2021 was 70 minutes 16, so 3:20 pace. So pretty much most of my sessions are like my threshold or my half marathon pace, and that was always like 3:20s. Now technically it's 3:18s, but most of my reps are around the 3:20 pace when I'm doing these long broken intervals. Obviously on a Tuesday I'm touching on faster stuff in my track sessions. But yeah, pretty much always every Friday, like if I'm doing a 10K threshold, it usually sits around 3:20 pace. And then if I'm doing a broken threshold, it just works out to usually be about 3:20 pace. Sometimes it's a little bit faster, sometimes it's a little bit slower. I do wear a heart rate monitor, so I do look at my heart rate and kind of use that feedback to recalibrate and adjust my effort. But yeah, I find that my body just kind of naturally locks into that pace pretty well.
Yeah, nice.
Definitely, that's not marathon pace though. Obviously, like my marathon pace was 3:30, and I hope that I'll be able to hold something like 3:27s or 3:28s. Going into this next one. But yeah, that's obviously faster than marathon pace.
Yeah, sure. And what would that give you, like at the end, if you can maintain 3:27s?
I think that's around 2:26. Yeah,
Awesome.
And that'd be amazing. Like the new Olympic standard is 2:26.50. So I think anyone in my position who's doing a marathon and has been to a games before is targeting that time. And there's so many things that go into running a good marathon. You can't just say you want to run a time and just show up and expect that your training's going to carry you through. There's a lot of factors that play into it, and I don't imagine it to be easy. But yeah, I'll be shooting for that and seeing where I land. And the world champs qualifier is 2:28 flat. I missed it by 10 seconds at Melbourne in my first one. But I'm sure there's 10 seconds there. So yeah, somewhere between there, we'll see where it works out.
Oh man, that's really exciting. I'm pumped for you. So are you kind of in the headspace now where you're transitioning towards the marathon full time, or do you think you'll dance between that and the track a little bit for a while?
Yeah, I think what I like about what some of the other athletes have shown us recently is you don't necessarily have to transition from one to the other. I've made the jump up. I've done a marathon now. I'm targeting some road races with a bit more intention than my other races. And I just find that's where I think I'll naturally be better. And I enjoy it more. I enjoy the training more. I enjoy the racing more. So yeah, it's definitely more my focus now. That's not to say that I won't jump back to the track, depending on, where the opportunities line up. And I have some goals still on the track. Like my PB is 15:04. I ran that in the Netherlands last year when I qualified for the Olympics. I felt like I could break 15 in that season, but I went to the Olympics, ran in Tokyo in the humidity, then I called it a season, and I never really got a chance to give it a real crack again. So I'd like to try and run sub 15 in my career, and my PB on the track in the 10K is 31:40. And I'd love to get, in the low 31s, at least just under 31:30. So yeah, definitely got some goals I'd like to get there as well. But I think the marathon and the roads will be my focus.
Yeah, man, it's such an exciting time. Because how old are you, Iz?
I'm 27. Yeah.
27, man, and that's the beauty about the marathon. Like you look at someone like Sinead and you go, okay, well, you got another 20 years up your sleeve to be to be running PBs, which is super exciting. Yeah, there's something beautiful about the marathon training. I'm doing the very, very early groundwork for the Melbourne Marathon this year. Like
nice.
I ran it back in 2018, and I remember going out because I officially finished running in 2013 or 14. And I went away for a little while and I wasn't overly interested in running. I'd go for a jog just to keep fit, but I'd done no structured training for ages. And then getting ready for 2018 marathon, I went out there and just did everything. Like, the listeners would be so sick of hearing this story, but I'd go out there and I would just do like some fast sessions. And I think my longest run was 30K and the second longest run was 24. I'm like, you know what, like this will be fine. And then I went through the first half in I think it was an hour 19. There was an hour 19. And then I ended up running 3 hours 5, and it was just so much humble pie.
No.
So but the reason I'm starting so early is because I'm only doing 4 days a week at the moment. I've got like a long run, a session, a couple of easy runs, and I'm just trying to get to June, and make sure my body's strong, make sure everything's sort of back in running mode. And then I thought I would do like a 16-week more focused build up from there. But just doing just doing that. I've got an appreciation for the training and stuff that you guys do, because I'm friends obviously with Jess Trengove or Stenson now.
Yeah.
And I've followed her progress for a while, and there's something about the marathon training which is, I don't know, it's like it just seems like a different sport to that of running on a track. I think I stole that from Pat Tiernan, but it's so true. And I love the fact that, as you say, even if you wanted to go between track and marathon for the next 5 or 6 years, you've got that option. And then you can dedicate the next 10 years after that just to running the marathon. It's super interesting. Have you found that interesting or difficult, the difference between training, or there, apart from the extension in some of the sessions, there hasn't been, I guess, much of a change to the structure for you?
I think I really like the way that Nick kind of plans for a marathon, because really the only change, so when I was doing like just 5K, 10K training, and actually when I was doing 5K training, I PB'd in the 1500 and the 3K as well, and then I ran a half marathon too. Like the one season I ran PBs in the 3K, 1500, 5K, and a 70-minute half marathon. So I feel like the training's geared towards that kind of whole range, because it's kind of a strength-based training kind of focus, I guess. And all really for the marathon that changes is like you keep the same Tuesday session on the track. My midweek long run stays the same. It's just my long run that goes up on a Sunday, and the Friday session goes from a 10K threshold to maybe 20Ks of work, or 15 to 20Ks of work. So it hasn't really been like massive kind of change. And those two additions, the Friday and the Sunday, they just top your mileage up a little bit more and put you in that running probably 160 Ks a week or upwards. I think I'm probably fairly low mileage for a marathon at the moment, but that is to say that I've been also racing other stuff too, so it's just been hard to get that mileage in. But yeah, I've found the transition fine, because I love that stuff. I love those sessions. I really look forward to them. I find them like hard and like grinding and like grueling, but like not as like hard as a track session.
Yeah, like not so much of a burn.
Yeah,
I know that feeling. I've got bad memories of running that last 150 meters of an 800 and just feeling like I wanted to cry, sit down and have a cry. I know that pain you're talking about. I noticed that a lot with Nick's athletes, like Stewie. When this is a couple of years ago now, when I spoke with him, he was saying that when he first ran 3:31, which was, I don't know if that was the Australian record at the time, but it was close to it. When he ran 3:31, he said he had done no work faster than 60-second pace for 400. No, I'm always interested, because I think that's a theme. Collis was always the same. Like there's a number of Nick's athletes who seem to have that ability just to be able to train almost, as you say, like a half marathon, or even maybe not a marathon in its full context, and still be able to convert that to really fast times on the track. What do you attribute that to? Like, is that just a personal preference, or is that strength-based focus that you think just converts really nicely, and a lot of us just don't give it the credit it probably deserves?
Yeah, I think that really anything from 1500 meters up is aerobic, like 95% aerobic. And so therefore, like, you really need to be training your aerobic system majority of the time. Obviously, if 1500 meters is your very highest race you do, and you're an 8:15 runner, then that's a bit different. Like, you really need to nail in on that speed. And your speed's probably just going to carry you through for the 1500. But if anything from a 1500 meter runner upwards, I just feel like that's mainly aerobic in the race itself. and therefore the training like should be geared to be mainly aerobic, and then just touching on that speed, touching on that anaerobic, that VO2 max stuff to get you ready to race. But yeah, majority of the training I think you can do in that kind of like almost strength kind of training, and it just kind of once you build that strength in your legs, like the speed comes from there.
Yeah.
I felt that in like many times, like I've not touched anywhere near kind of like even like sub 70-second laps in training, and then you go and finish a 5K at 64-second lap, you know, and you run a 64-second lap at the end of a 5K. When in training, I'm not even breaking 70 in my 400 reps. So it just kind of like you accumulate that strength and it translates to speed. But yeah, I can't speak for anything under 1500 because that's a whole nother ballpark, and I've got really no experience.
You've never been, even back in your college days, you were never in the short distance kind of stuff. It was always the longer stuff.
Yeah, when I was at school, like I did the 8:15, and I went to college actually as a steeplechaser. So I went to college as a 3K steeplechaser. I ran the World Junior qualifying time in the steeplechase, and that was kind of like the start of my career. So I guess that's a shorter distance, but yeah, I've always kind of been like more of a strength kind of longer distance athlete.
Yeah. Which college were you at?
I actually started out at one called St. John's University in New York, but I was only there for 18 months and I transferred to the University of Washington in Seattle. So I take pride in being, I think, the first Australian there, and now they've got Sophie O'Sullivan and a bunch of other, New Zealand. Sam Tanner went there, and a bunch of other Australians there. So it's actually become quite a international team. But when I was there, I was the only Aussie.
Yeah, man, that's interesting. It's interesting that you went to New York originally, because that was one thing that when I was speaking to Pat about, he was laughing because he's in North Carolina. And he's like, yeah, dude, this is not a place where most of us go to do training. When people think of training, they think of Arizona or Boulder. No one's talking about North Carolina or New York. But so you were the first, you were the first Aussie at Washington, is that right?
Yeah. I might have been the first at St. John's too. St. John's was great, but I wasn't that great of a junior. Like I had run 10:24 in the steeple, and like 9:48 in 3K, like nothing outstanding. But I had run that World Junior qualifying time. So I was kind of like on the cusp, and I wanted to go somewhere where if running didn't work out, still we're in a really cool city and like a good university. And so I didn't take visits, but I'd been to New York. So I just kind of like picked New York, and I had a great time. It was super fun, and like I love living in New York, and yeah, had a really fun 18 months, made some great friends and did some really cool stuff. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't going to be the place where I was going to become the runner that I wanted to be. And once I kind of made that realization, I decided to look into better options, and I subsequently transferred to Washington and had a great career there. And really enjoyed myself and the challenge that came with that.
Yeah. What's it like? Washington be different in the sense that you wouldn't get the super cold temperatures, but you'd get the real fluctuation in between sun and rain. Like you'd still get a fair workout in the seasons over there, would you?
Yeah, Seattle's lovely, but it's quite rainy. So you have like quite a few months of just like dreary, rainy weather, and then the summer's lovely, but it's quite it's not super hot like we would have here in Australia. So it's relatively like nice all year round. Like for running, it can get a bit of a drag when it's just been like raining for 3 months straight, but it doesn't really change your running. You can still get out there. Obviously, like snow and like minus temperatures is a whole nother factor that can affect your running. So I did like that factor about it, that like all year round you could be running outside.
Yeah, that's nice. That's one thing that would scare me about New York, is the fact that whenever I see snow, I panic. I go, this isn't the place for me. I need to get back to somewhere with like gravel paths and a little bit of sunshine. Are you like during all your endurance work, are you in the gym doing actual strength work as well? Like what kind of role does that play in your training system?
Yeah, I think strength work is really important. I'm going to try and do some this afternoon because it's been 3 weeks since I've done any. But no, normally I do it twice a week. It's just in a racing block it gets hard because you don't want to be doing like a gym session before a race and getting sore, and then after the race you don't feel like doing strength because you're sore. And because I had 3 races, in a pretty close period of time, I just kind of like haven't had a chance. But in a normal training week, I would do strength twice, about an hour in length, 45 minutes to an hour. And because of this pesky hamstring injury that I've had for a while, I haven't been able to do some of the exercises that you might do, like just regular squats and deadlifts. So I've had to kind of adjust a little bit, but I do stuff like hip thrusts and step ups, and yeah, like kind of like, I don't know, your basic running stuff, single leg exercises to get stability and a bit of core and glute and hammy work. So yeah, I do think it's really important.
What actually happened with your hammy originally? What was the original issue? I know you mentioned it, but I just don't know if there was a particular cause that sort of set it off.
Not necessarily. I think it's a very popular injury for athletes. So, and I think for female athletes more than that too. So yeah, I was training before the Olympics, doing a fair bit of like speed, like racing. I was in St. Moritz. I ran a PB in the 1500, ran another 1500, another 5K. And then actually it was like this last session before the Olympics in the holding camp. We did, I did with Rose and Jen Gregson, and we did a bunch of 300s or something, and then we did a hard K, and I think we were on 244. Like we were rolling, and like I was hanging on to Jen and Rose, and yeah, it was fast. My 1K PB still.
It's a good time.
And yeah, I just felt it. I felt it kind of like get pretty tight. And yeah, I guess from there, like it just kind of like, yeah, just kind of like stuck around.
Just flared up a little bit. That's a bummer.
Yeah.
I'm glad you don't get away scot-free from a 244K, because I wouldn't either. That's that's not mucking around. That's some nice speed. There wouldn't be, I don't know how many marathon runners in Australia in the female world that'd be running 244Ks. That's a nice.
I'm not sure I could today. It was good, and like I was in really good shape for the Olympics, and like I didn't run badly there. I ran 15:21 like in the humidity of Tokyo, but it was kind of unfortunate that it didn't really have to show for like such a good result, just because it was it was the Olympics and it was humid and hot, and you're ready to go for a fast time, but you don't get that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think actually the hamstring it came from like that session probably set it off. But the whole factor of what happened there is like we were in quarantine, like sort of before going into the village, and the only place we were allowed to run was the track. So we were in the hotel for like a week, and I did like 90 Ks in 5 days, just laps of the track. So one way, the other way. So I actually think while I felt it after that session, I think probably the reason was more just like doing the laps and laps and laps of the track.
That's a brutal experience. 90 Ks of laps of a track. Yeah. I've done a couple of 10K races and thought, you know what, I don't want to do one of these again for another 10 years. Even tough. 25 laps seems like a long time. That's that's a brutal experience. Oh, sorry, don't stress. I know what it's like. So good. The story of a podcast is difficult. I always give my wife the firm chat before we start. Go, babe, I'm so sorry. I've got to record this one. Like, do you mind just being super quiet? And it's so difficult. The reason I said let's do it on a Thursday is because I've got 2 kids, and one of them is at daycare today. So and he's the noisy one. So whenever he's out of the house, I go, all right, let's schedule a schedule a podcast. And I've also become the king editor as a result of background noise. So it's it's part of the beast, isn't it? In terms of recovery and things like that. So obviously with 160 Ks going into your legs each week, that's going to be a big part, like beyond sort of just nutrition, hydration, easy runs. You mentioned cross training that you were doing a little bit of as well, which I was keen to pick your brain about. But what does the recovery side of your training look like right now?
Yeah, so for me, like I guess from this hamstring issue, when I was overseas, I got it right, kind of like feeling better after the initial issue in Tokyo. Like it took a few months and it kind of like got a bit better. But then unfortunately I went to Falls Creek, stirred it up really badly, got it going a bit better again. Then I went to Flagstaff, and that really destroyed me in April last year. I was there for 5 weeks, and unfortunately that was a bad start to my European season. I was able to scrape it together and make Com Games, and that was a kind of a good end result. But in the middle there, I was really struggling, and like I couldn't even get 10K runs done without like almost crying because of the pain. So subsequently from that, I started to supplement a bit of cross training on the elliptical. Collis, and had a similar hamstring issue in the past, and a lot of people had found that the cross trainer kind of enables you to not get that like same I guess like hip and knee like impingement, and it just kind of feels better. So I started to do a little bit of cross training over there while I was overseas, and I just kind of have like kept that in my schedule moving forward, just because I feel like if you can offload the body a little bit, then why not? So I've actually bought a elliptical for my home gym, and I jump on there usually for 2 of my doubles during the week. And it's not because I'm like worried necessarily about injury, and it's not even really for my hamstring anymore. It's just because I feel like if I've done like 25, 30K session in the morning, going out for a 30-minute run, I'm probably not getting that much from it. So I can do the same thing, just jumping on the elliptical, not being worried about like injuring myself, and just get the same sweat, get the same heart rate going, watch a Sweat Elite or an old race on YouTube and just get it done. So usually I do the elliptical on a Tuesday, Friday afternoon. So it just takes the place of what a double run might be. And I think on a Friday it's really good because I've done like most of the time I'm doing like up to 30Ks in the morning, and going for another run, like what's the point?
Yeah.
Even the elliptical, like I'm not trying to get fit. It's more just to like get the legs moving. And like, so the next day when you go for a run, you're not like stale from that morning session.
Yeah, that was one thing that stood out to me when I chatted with Jen Gregson a little while ago. She was saying the exact same thing, is that she had some trouble trying to navigate certain injuries, and she just started to question how much that double run was actually benefiting her performance. It's something that I reckon it makes so much sense. Like if you're getting your heart rate up, you're getting the sweat, you're getting a good little workout, or the equivalent workout that you're going to get in a 30-minute run, but take a little bit of pressure off your joints and your body. It seems like a good thing for a lot of athletes to weigh up, but for whatever reason, especially at like a novice level, I think a lot of athletes get excited about, no, I've just got to learn to run more. And then they don't take into consideration, I say novice level, but this applies to the elite level as well, because we're an OCD bunch at the best of times. So I know the allure of seeing like a whole heap more kilometers written down in the training diary at the end of the week. But how has that actually transferred across to your running? Like, have you noticed that's, I guess it's obviously been beneficial because you're still doing it.
Yeah, I think like the main thing is like people getting away, and myself included, getting away from the idea of like weekly Ks, because like, I don't factor in my cross training to my weekly mileage. So I think like the most I've ever run in the week is like 180 Ks, but I probably did 2 30-minute like elliptical sessions that week. So, should I call it 190, like 195, 200?
Yeah.
But yeah, you can get a bit carried away with like just like needing to like hit a certain number. I actually don't, like, I just open up my Strava just to have a look, but I actually don't even know what Ks I've been running. Like, it's been so random, like last week's 91, then 140, 111, 159, 166. So my highest week in this marathon block is going to be 166, which isn't very high. And then it's like 116, 149, 156, 139. So like, I've had 3 race weeks in there, so it's kind of like gone up and down, and then recovery from the race itself. But if I look at my cross training too, because I keep track of that, it's been up to an hour and a half a week of cross training on any given week. So, if you factor that in, it changes the number. But so what? Like, the number doesn't matter. Your body doesn't know the number. It just kind of knows like the overall volume that you're putting through your legs and through on your heart. And yeah, I just think that it's a really nice little offload, and thinking about Jen too, like, knowing if you've got an injury history, and I certainly had one, with all my feet stress fractures. But even if you don't have an injury history, it's just kind of like, yeah, what are you gaining from going out for a 7K run at 4:40s, that you can't gain from 40 minutes on the elliptical? I actually think I get more out of it, because when I go for a jog, my heart rate's lower. When I get on the elliptical, my heart rate, I sit at like 140. I get off absolutely drenched in sweat. So sometimes I think I'm actually getting more out of it. I'm just not getting those Ks to go on my weekly Strava.
Yeah, that's true. And that's an appeal that so many runners can't let go of, because it always feels good to upload those Ks to Strava. But also the fact you get to watch a couple of Sweat Elites. I only discovered those guys about 4 weeks ago. And
really?
I don't know. Man, amazing, huh? So what's the story? They just go around and follow elite athletes who train.
Yeah, so the guy who started it, like he obviously kind of like oversees it all, but he just engages different videographers and photographers in different locations, and gets different sponsors to support the series, and works with athletes, and yeah, puts it out there, and then we can all enjoy it.
Man, it's such a good idea. Hey, before
Yeah,
I let
it's
you go,
inspiriting.
I know we're only sort of scratching the surface of all the things you're able to talk about, but I know you've also, as we've established, you've got a busy timetable, so I'm not going to steal all your day or
All
all your
good.
morning over there. But runners one, like you guys, how long ago did you start this? Because did you say you had 400 athletes running with you guys now?
Yeah, so we started in COVID. It was like just after COVID hit in like May, June, that we kind of like were running. We were like meeting up with a couple of family friends, my mom, and like yeah, a couple of family friends that wanted to kind of train during this time, and were a bit kind of like lost, and races being cancelled. And we slowly like just kind of like that was kind of building up to like more people were asking if they could come and run, and we were like, oh, we better like start a name and like put some information out for this group. And that was, yeah, middle of 2020. And then by January the next year, we had 100 people, and then now we've got 400 members. But they don't all live in Adelaide, so we coach remotely as well. Majority of them are based like in our Adelaide training group here, and we have up to 150 people at sessions on a Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday morning long run, which gets pretty crazy, but it's a lot of fun.
Sounds like fun.
Um, and yeah, it's a great community. There's a place for everyone. We've got people who are just like their goal is to do park run, and they're getting up from walk runs. And then we've got people like Jacob, Riley's brother, leading the way at the front, running sub 3 minute Ks. So yeah, it's a massive variation in abilities and age and all sorts of goals. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really exciting. That's good. That's insane. I don't think I've ever heard of a running group with 400 members, but I love it. I love it, and it looks like it's. I've been following some of the stuff you guys are posting on Insta. It looks unreal. You're doing it professionally as well. Like I like the fact you got some good quality photos and
Yeah,
some nice kits, and yeah, I'm a bit of a fan
definitely.
from a distance.
I think that I think I heard a quote the other day, which is like, um, if you exercise with intention, then you're an athlete. Like if you're getting up to exercise, then you're an athlete. Like so, we kind of look at it like everyone in the group is an athlete, and they want to look good, they want to feel good, they want to get the good photos taken of them, they want to have the right merch and apparel to wear. So yeah, it's definitely all part of it.
Yeah, unreal. Well, as I said, I'm sorry it's taken so long to get you on here, but it's great to finally sit down and have a chat with you. We'll have to do another one maybe after the marathon in the next couple of months. We can talk about the progress and the
Yeah,
lessons and stuff
definitely.
from there because it's always interesting to get those follow up chats as well. But hey, I'll be cheering for you from Melbourne, and thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, and good luck with your preparation for Melbourne Marathon. I'm excited to see how you go.
Oh my
Sub three.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, come on. I was going to say at the least, but I'll take sub 3 right now. Like after last time. Oh yeah, I shouldn't get too ahead of myself. But yeah, I'll keep you posted.
Sounds good. It's great to chat.
You too. See you later. See everybody.